part of what I think makes me successful in every endeavor that I do is I can also see somebody else's tent flying away with no sandbags and go, shit, we better get some sandbags because I don't want to be that person.
Learn from other people's
Learning
mistakes.
from other people's mistakes and people's successes. And I think one of the things that grittiness, that part of that grittiness of having your own business is observing and really learning every single way, every single place, every single time, every single thing that you do, every single transaction that we do, we learn something, right? Every single encounter that I have with other people, I learn something.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Medeiros.
And I'm Colleen Hungerford, and this is We're Doing This Right, right? Podcast for the whole woman, mind, body, soul, and business.
It's humor infused, as real as it gets, inspiring, and you'll walk away with real usable tools for life and business.
If you love what you're hearing, please share with a friend, subscribe so you'll never miss an episode, and rate and review whenever you listen.
So find your earbuds, lace up your walking shoes, or cozy up with a beverage of your choice. It's time to dig in. Welcome back, because we're doing it right.
We're doing it right.
And hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm so good. I've got this like super professional setup today. I've gone back to you guys, Cheryl said, get this microphone. So
Colleen sounded like shit the other day, so I was like,
so we stopped sounding like trash. And, do you know how many microphones I have? But they just not working for me. But anyway, we're trying this new setup. So I've got my headphones on. I've got my lapel microphone, and we're doing it. Oh shit! Don't touch it. Okay, not doing that right.
Don't touch it.
Learning curve.
Don't do that.
So anyway, good. Good. We're going to talk about something that I have a lot of passion about, a lot of thoughts about, and I'm really excited to chat with you about it. But how are you doing?
My middle child's still trying to kill me through behavior and tantrums. So we have therapy scheduled next week. Today I just had to say enough is enough. I cannot do this another day. So here we go. We're going to lean in and find a resource to help us fix it. So I've got weekly appointments starting next week, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She just gets dysregulated and cannot get through it. And then after enough time, I get dysregulated too. And then it's like a whole family experience, and I just can't anymore. So I'm going to find some help.
Good.
So, yeah. We were all in tears on the way to school this morning, in case anybody's wondering. And I very much set the intention of I'm not going to rush these people at the expense of yelling at them. Right. I've already decided that it's fine with me if we're going to be late for school. It's fucking school. They're in elementary. It doesn't matter.
Literally.
It is what it is. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then it turns to well, she just doesn't want to go to school at all. And she just doesn't want, she doesn't want to go to the after school help that I have set up. And so then it's just, everything's just no. She just digs in and everything's no. And I called a girlfriend on the way home, and she's like, I think the need here is one-on-one attention from you, because it's usually centered around separating from me and not being with me that she becomes so dysregulated. And so then I'm just like, well, when the fuck am I supposed to do that? Because I don't have any fucking time. And I have 3 kids. I'm sorry, but it's hard to get away with just one of you, because then the other 2 feel abandoned and left out. So I do think I worked out a plan on Mondays to give her a little one-on-one time. That might work. And then we're going to have therapy every week. So maybe that will be helpful.
Yeah. I had a client who had 3 kids, and they were twins and an older daughter. And she was very, very intentional about doing something with each one of them every week. And the twins, she did the same thing with, right? It was boy, girl twins.
But separately. Yeah.
Separately. But guess what? She was a stay-at-home mom.
Right. That's the thing, is when the fuck am I supposed to fit this into my schedule?
Yeah.
I'm really not sure, but also, okay, it's the most important thing. So we're going to just have to pivot and make it work. And I will. And holy shit.
Holy shit. Yeah. I get it.
She's just killing me, Smalls. So this is what it is. Then my older child's trying to fix me. She's like, Mom, it's okay. Emmy, be nice to Mom. And then I'm like, well, now I'm breaking you also. Mommy's allowed to cry. Mommy's allowed to feel sad. This is allowed to be hard. I still wouldn't trade a single one of you for anything in the world. But my God, this is so frustrating.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
thanks for
diff
coming to therapy today, you guys.
well, and I think the thing that we're doing differently as parents than previous generations is, we're allowing our kids to see that. We're allowing our kids to see
Mhm.
that this is hard and that we can get through the hard things together, right? Like,
Mhm.
that we're not pretending like everything's okay, or we're not pretending like you're a superhero or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, that's a lot. But I think it also has a lot to do with part of what we're going to talk about today. So
Mhm.
our official, what are we calling this topic today, is overcoming challenges and resilience, bouncing back stronger. And I kind of liked this topic of bouncing back because we hear this idea about, especially with moms and with women, bouncing your body back, or like having to do with something physical. But I think what we really need to talk about is the bounce back that happens, like, mentally and emotionally, and just mentally and emotionally and physically, I suppose, in business when it's hard, and it's
Mhm.
hard in so many different ways, right? It's hard because of things going on at home. It's hard because of things going on within business. It's hard because of relationship. And those components in entrepreneurship, and those components in business owning, or even just being an executive, or like, I don't know, just a person also, like just a normal
Yeah.
person. I think one of the things that you really see sets successful entrepreneurs or successful executives or business people apart is this idea of resilience and grit and bouncing back. And when the when things get hard, it's not that things never get hard for these people. It's that when they get hard, they figure out, okay, how do we come back from that? And I think
Mhm.
it's a conversation that's ongoing, that needs to be continually had. We've touched on this a bunch of times in so many of our podcasts. We talk about resilience all the time. We talk about, like, grittiness or hustle. Even beforehand, we were talking about, like, I was talking to you and I was like, hustle, but not hustle. I know we're not hustling anymore. And you were like, it's okay to hustle still. Like, that's
Yeah,
still
I
part of
it's
it.
okay to hustle, not at the expense of your health, your physical, mental,
Right.
emotional health. But okay, so I have a designated 6 hours today without kids
Hmm.
to focus on my business, and I'm gonna hustle like a motherfucker in that 6 hours,
Right.
and then I'm gonna put it down, and I'm gonna set a boundary, and I'm gonna be present with my
Mm.
kids. At least that's what I'm telling myself
Yeah,
that I'm
that's
gonna do
so hard.
today. Yes, I mean, to be a successful entrepreneur, leader, executive, a successful person, if you're driven, there's going to be hustling. That is part of it. But it's not hustling from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. It is, I think, important to compartmentalize our lives into, and that's, I mean, you and I both have a job that's around the clock,
Yeah.
really. And so it is very hard to, I cannot have necessarily completely distinct windows of time where I'm only going to think about real estate and I'm only going to think about my family.
Right.
That's not
Right.
realistic. But what I can do is set some windows of time where I'm going to put my phone on do not disturb when I'm with my family, or I'm going to the best of my ability, stop thinking about my children while I'm in this time where I know that they're well cared for, they're safe, and they're doing what they should be doing at their age. And now I'm going to
Hmm.
focus like as much of my possible attention on work, like
Right.
as best you can, finding the areas to separate those two things.
Yeah. And I think,
But really focusing the hustle in that like time that is for work,
right. And I
and
think,
then outside of that triage and like handle what needs to happen. Is Sir Charles Barkley here or did he
yeah,
drop something?
Charles is going absolutely fuck in front of me. Hold on. Let me just throw something at him. Not anything hard, people. Don't worry. He decided to just wail on the rug. He's gone. Goodbye. Sorry, guys. We're bouncing
Okay.
back from dog interruption. Pu-
Yeah.
Puppy training was a poor choice on my part, but here we go.
Uh-oh.
Um,
That's a story for another time, but I'm so excited. Are
I
you
mean,
going to
it's
reframe
fine.
that failure around the puppy training
I
to learn a
know
valuable
puppy
lesson?
puppy training's fine. The puppy part, I should have stuck to
Oh, the
my
puppy.
guns as far as like not getting a puppy, getting a standby people, getting a dog, not a puppy.
Okay, well, I disagree completely. I'm so happy I have Mater. I love him so much. So I made the right choice. I'm sorry that you didn't.
Well, I love him. I just don't know that I have the capacity nor the tolerance. Although I'm doing fine. He's fine. It's just this is a really big tangent, but it's like we got this puppy. We all agreed to get the puppy. And then I signed us up for puppy training, which is fine. I wanted to send Charlie to the trainer
Boarding
because
school.
to boarding school. I wanted to send Charlie to boarding
Mhm.
school because that was an option. And David was like, no, why would we do that? We can just have the trainer come to the house and meet with us once a week. And I'm like, that's great. But who's doing all the training during the day? Who's home during the day? I work from home. So now here we are with the dog being loud in my podcast. That's
Moral of the story.
moral of the story.
Boarding
Anyway,
school.
we should have sent him to boarding school. But anyway, he's great. He's adorable. I love him. But also, get a life away from here.
Okay. So I did touch on one of the things I wanted to say about like bouncing back and resilience is I want to call out the idea that successful entrepreneurs, they don't not fail. They do fail, but
Right.
what they do is, and I've said this a million times, I don't subscribe to failure. Like everything is an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to pivot. It's an opportunity. So reframing any sort of failure that you bump into or any kind of conflict or any friction, if you will, and finding a way to reframe that into like, wow, what a valuable lesson I've learned or what a great opportunity that
Yeah.
presented for me. I think that's so important.
Yeah. I saw this one TED talk where she talks about grit. Have you seen the TED talk about
I think
grit?
I have, but remind me.
Basically, it's this woman, and I don't know. This is like me just talking off the cuff here, no planning, but I was just thinking about this. And so we'll put it in the show notes. We'll figure out what the real words are. Anyway, it's this woman who's talking about success, and she's talking about entrepreneurship, and she's talking about success and how we measure success, and what are the things that an entrepreneur or a business person has to have. And ultimately, it comes down to the number one thing that that person has to have is grit. In order to be successful, that person has to have grit. So I pulled a Cheryl on this one, and I went to Chat GPT and I asked Chat GPT because obviously grit has many definitions, right? Like I didn't ask them what is the definition of grit. I asked Chat GPT, give me your best definition of grit when it comes to someone having grit. And I liked what they said here. I liked what our robot said. It said, grit refers to a person's unwavering determination, perseverance, and resilience in the face of challenges. The ability to stay committed to long term goals, even when things get tough or progress is slow, which is such a big deal because I think I am somebody who wants it all to happen at
Right
the
now.
same right now. Like I want to be wildly
Mhm.
successful and wildly rich and wildly funny and beautiful and happy and funny and have all these businesses that are like doing $1 billion a year. Right. I want to have it right. And when
Right.
it's low, it it feels torturous and it feels like we
Right.
talked about this with Lady a little bit the other day when you see other people's success and it's not a there is some comparison, right? There is some comparison when you see somebody else's success. And I don't begrudge anybody their success ever, but I'm always kind of like, when can I get there? Or I want to be there. Or that's where I want to be. So, but I have to constantly remind myself, like, this person's been doing it for 15 years and you haven't, right? And,
Mhm.
like you building a business in the short amount of time that I have is pretty incredible. And I will get to the places that I want to, but it might not be right now. And I think that that is, while it's something that we deal with every single day, it's something that takes grit. It takes determination. It takes like being able to like get up every day and do the same thing, even though you're not always getting the results every day. I think that's what's tricky about sales jobs or tricky about businesses like real estate or when you're building a business, like my best friend Shelby is building, she's 2 years into her aesthetic business. And we often have those conversations about why don't I have more clients or why don't I have more people or why don't I have more patients or whatever. And you just started. Like it doesn't
Right.
always
Well,
just
and
flip
you can look
over.
at her. You can look at her and say that, but
Yeah.
then when you look at yourself, it's a lot harder to give yourself the grace and the kindness of, "I'm 2 years in, for
Yeah.
fuck's sake." Like, it takes time to build an empire. So, I also went to ChatGPT, of course, my best friend, and one of the things that stands out to me that it said was, "In entrepreneurs or successful people continue to push even when the initial enthusiasm fades."
Mm,
And it's so striking to me because let's look back at our Clifton strengths, and consistency and discipline is like number 34 and 33, which are the bottom for me.
right.
And those two things, to have long-term success, you need to do the consistent work day
Hmm.
after day, which is, I think, where Susie and systems come in,
Yeah.
because if you can put into place something like, I'm very heavily leaning on my task list right now. I'm in process of 7 deals, either in
Amazing.
contract, in escrow, or preparing listings, or and it's a lot to juggle, and having these systems in place where, like, I'm being reminded, like, "Oh, don't forget to post the social post over here. Don't
Right.
forget to do," like, just dummy proofing the consistency so that you can continue to show up in your business day after day, even when the enthusiasm wears off,
Yep.
is crucial. And thank God we live in the time, well, yes and no. I mean, I guess we have more work to do because we live in the current technology time, but
Yeah.
also thank God we have the technology to be able to put these systems into place to keep us accountable and to keep us doing what we decided we wanted to do. When we had that enthusiasm, we were excited. We were like, this is how I want to run my business. Okay, now I need to put in, I think I just overheard Susie doing a presentation, but put in the guardrails, if you will,
Mm, yeah.
and the rumble strips to keep you on the path, even when the enthusiasm wears off.
And when the fatigue sets in, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
that's also part of it is you've lost maybe enthusiasm or maybe you're on, your fifth deal at you're like in a hard part of deal number 5 and there's 7 going on. And, you get into fatigue and you get into just physical tiredness, but also mental fatigue and also, exhaustion and emotion. If you have these if you have those systems set up and your task list is telling you, it's so much easier to go there and say, okay, let me just do these. And then at least you're continuing that progress forward always.
Right.
Because that's
Well,
a
and
real thing.
let's talk about my morning. My morning totally derailed me. Like, I was
Hmm.
in tears for 30 minutes this morning.
Yeah.
And then you were a little behind logging in, and I'm
Yep.
sitting here and I'm like, "Okay, well, if I didn't have this task list in place, if I didn't have this system set up, I would have sat here and stared off into space because I was so brain dead
Yeah.
from my morning." But
Yeah.
because I have this set up, I was able to just sit here and just, "Okay, I can do this right now. I can do this right now." Like, I've got the capacity and the time for this, and just I worked through and I checked a whole bunch of stuff off the list. I made that 30 minutes very productive instead of letting the mental fatigue and emotional fatigue I was feeling make it so I can't function.
Yeah, and it gives you the time and space to also be like, okay, here's the thing, like you said, that I can do in this time, but also that I have the mental capacity for, or I have the capacity to do right now. Sometimes that
Right.
checklist or that task list is like, you know, littler things that you can get done that help you knock some of that stuff off. And I think that is where we see entrepreneurs or where we see business owners or where we see executives fail. They talk about your small business or a new business typically fail within the first 5 years. Like if you can make it past the first 5 years, then you're good. But I think what happens, and I would make the assumption of part of what happens is they don't have these systems and processes in place. They don't have the guardrails and they don't have that support that they've even just set up for themselves by themselves to make sure that they can get through those times or make sure we can get through those times that are exhausting. And
Mhm.
I remember my mom and I had a scone business really early on. It started in 2009. It was started out as a way to make money for my wedding, extra money for my wedding. It did not, but it did turn into something pretty big. You know, Having systems and processes, especially if you're thinking about something like baking, which is very process oriented, really helped our business when we were trying to, and also hurt our business when we didn't put those things in place when we were really trying to grow, right? Like having a system of how to put the labels on the bag and how to bag the things and how to bake the cookies and how to freeze the things, whatever. Because there were times when it was, 3 o'clock in the morning and we had slept and we had to be somewhere. We knew we weren't going to sleep, but those were the systems and processes that we could rely on that would kind of get us through. And then also just, I think some of these systems and processes come over time, right? Like you figure them out through failure. Figure
Trial and
them out
error.
through
Yeah.
trial and error. And I think that that's something that is part of grittiness, right? I think that's part of grittiness. There's the very tangible thing of, okay, well, we used to work farmers market and we would set up tent. And, the first time your tent starts to fly away because you haven't done anything to like you haven't
Weight
sandbagged
it down.
down,
Yeah.
you go and get the sandbags the next time, right? But I think part of what I think makes me successful in every endeavor that I do is I can also see somebody else's tent flying away with no sandbags and go, shit, we better get some sandbags because I don't want to be that person.
Learn from other people's
Learning
mistakes.
from other people's mistakes and people's successes. And I think one of the things that part of that grittiness of having your own business is observing and really learning every single way, every single place, every single time, every single thing that you do, every single transaction that we do, we learn something, right? Every single encounter that I have with other people, I learn something. There's an example like the other day I was doing an open house and an agent who had shown the house before, this really made me think about this whole topic. She had done an analysis of all the houses in the neighborhood and in the area that are about the same size, about whatever. So she had done like a price per square foot analysis and she left it in the house. And I kind of bought this open house last minute and I didn't get to prep for it as like I would normally do. And I didn't have that information, but I picked it up. I looked at it. I read it. I absorbed it. And then somebody asked me what the price per square foot was, and I was able to give it to that. And I was able to have those conversations, and I was able to do that. And I think there's something to those intangible aspects of entrepreneurship and grittiness and street smarts and learning that really make you good at what you do or make you a good business
Mhm.
owner or make you like I don't know how to teach that to somebody else. Like I have a new agent on my team and then I have an agent who's my admin assistant now. Yay, look at me. Who we're
Look at you
training.
go.
And it's figuring out how to teach them those things, right? Like how do you teach them to just pick something up and read it and learn from it and then be able to use that information in your next conversation? Um,
Mhm.
I don't know, and I think that that's part of the constant need and want to be good, and the constant need and want to be better at what you're doing. If you're constantly learning and observing and picking things up from others, from your environment, from yourself, everywhere you go. But I don't know if that's like an inherent thing. Is that something that you do? Do you do that? Do you
Oh, I'm learning. I'm watching everything. So while we were talking about this, I'm thinking back to my bachelor's program. I did a double major in business, and I'd say 90% of the courses were case studies.
Mm,
Like, just presenting stories, businesses that have either succeeded or failed, walking you through what happened, and then you just learn from those. And
yeah.
then I also had the benefit of, for 12 years being in commercial insurance, the business owners were my clients, business
Mhm.
owners from 2 employees to 300 employees. I had it, across the gamut, and I had the opportunity to sit in those rooms with them and talk to them about what was working and what wasn't working and where they were failing and where they weren't failing, and take a little something from every piece of that. But I think in order to observe and use the observations to grow, you have to be a person who's willing to admit, I don't have all the answers.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you go into a scenario with, well, I know how to do this, and we've all seen this,
Mhm.
and maybe like some self reflection's good because I'm certain there's areas in my life where I do this. I don't do it in business, but I'm certain I do it in some areas where, well, I know how to do that. I'm like the
Yeah.
fucking pro on this. Okay, guys. But in those scenarios, my mind is closed and I'm
Mhm.
unwilling to take the lesson
Right.
from that. I know you guys have all seen it with people around your life, but I'm just also take a hard look in the mirror and see, is there anywhere where you're doing that and you're blocking your ability to learn and grow?
Yeah. I think that absolutely. Charlie is barking. What a rude,
Charles,
what a rude dog.
Charles.
But then also, yes, that, right? Like, where are you blocking yourself from learning something? Or where are you preventing yourself because you feel like you know? I mean, I see that in my kids already, which I was like, ugh, they're like not even a decade old. How do you know everything already? But
Oh, my favorite thing to say, hold on. My favorite thing to tell August is, oh gosh, I remember when I used to know everything. Oh, that was so great.
so great.
I don't know everything anymore.
Yeah, it's like you unlearn.
And I think with wisdom, obviously in this scenario with what we're talking about with the kids, but even like a business owner probably we're all adolescents at one point in our business or infants in our business. And I do think that the longer people do something, the more they realize they have no idea what they're doing. In the
Yeah,
beginning, you might be like, "Mm, I've got this." But, and I do think some people just have blinders on. There is probably a segment of the population that just won't be able to see outside of themselves to be able to learn.
yeah.
But I hope it's teachable. I don't know. Do you think it's teachable?
I think it's teachable, but I think there's also the next of the application, right? Like it's
Mhm.
being willing to learn something and then the next level of whatever you've learned, now how do you apply that to what you're doing? And I think that
Mhm.
those are high level. I don't know. Some of that comes naturally to people and some of that doesn't, right? I think it's,
Mhm.
you know, it's very interesting in talking to people, even like this. And I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to say that I'm the best in the world. But like when I talk to people here about taking the real estate exam, this has come up recently. And it's like, wow, it's so hard, it's so complicated, it's so this and it's so that. And it's like, it is, but also like, is it? I don't know.
And that's the first of like a zillion hurdles you're about to overcome in this business.
Yeah.
That's the entry level hurdle. It's like the
Yeah.
baby step that you
And
need to step over.
and our exam is not like your exam, by the way. Just
Oh,
so you
really?
know.
Is ours hard?
Yours is ours is not hard. And but I guess the point is like it's a lot of like, oh my God, and there's a lot of studying and there's a lot of this and there's a lot of that. And like when I think about when I studied for my exam, it was a 90-hour course. I did that 90-hour course because I was
Yeah.
so driven and so focused, and I was still taking care of all my kids, and I was still working, and I was still doing whatever. I was waking up at 4 in the morning, coming down and studying, taking my kids to school, coming back and studying, doing the, working on my design business that I had at the time, blah, 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 right?
Well, and let's circle back to what we talked about in the beginning about on day 1, you had a lot of enthusiasm, I'm sure. But by 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, like you no longer had that same enthusiasm, but you still had made the commitment to yourself and you kept going even when it no longer was exciting and fun. And
Well,
that's
and
the difference. I think that probably sets entrepreneurs apart from 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, build someone else's dream.
and drive and like persistence and drive. I was like, I'm just gonna do this fucking because that's what we're gonna do now. Like I was so driven to achieve this one thing so that I could do it, right? And, I see people taking 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, a year to take a 90-hour course, and I get it. They're doing it part-time and whatever, but, like, listen, I don't wanna be one of those asshole people that's like, "You should just do it. Stop being weak," or whatever, but I think there is some differentiator between entrepreneurs, people who really wanna have a business, people who really wanna put the time in, who really wanna put energy and the effort and have the goals and the enthusiasm and the persistence and all of that to somebody who just wants to do it. Like Those are the
Well,
differentiators.
I also think like you very clearly had defined your why.
Mhm.
You are doing this task. Like there's a zillion things we do that aren't fun to do and that none of us want to do. And yes, fine. I don't want to pick up my house, but I do it because I want to live in a peaceful, organized home.
Right.
And I keep finding this with my girls, like when I'm trying to encourage them to do something we need to do. But no wonder they don't want to clean up the house. It's not their why. They don't give a
Right.
shit.
They don't
They're not even seeing it.
You've
So if,
created a nice environment for them.
somebody
Yeah, you've
yeah.
created that for them, so they don't need to make
They don't even know that they would need that why yet.
right,
That I've already defined as like having a peaceful sanctuary here is crucial to my mental and emotional well-being. They don't have that why. That's
right,
mine. You knowing that I'm ready to drop this gig that I'm doing and I'm going to dive in over there, like you were so committed to that why that it pulls you through when it's no longer fun and exciting.
right, right.
And so I guess my advice would be if there's something you want to do, get super clear on the why.
Yeah,
Why do you want to do that? And then when it gets hard and when you no longer want to keep going, go back to your why. And if the why is no longer, if it doesn't fit anymore, I'm all about quitting when it no longer serves you. But
right.
if you are still like, no, that is what I want to do, then use that as some remotivational juice to strap on those bootstraps or whatever the saying is and keep going.
Yeah, pull yourself up
Keep
to your
climbing that beanstalk, you guys, whatever
yeah,
the saying is. I
whatever it
don't
is,
know.
but I think you're right? Like, I am very intentionally building my team and very intentionally building my business because I have a very specific why that I've set a time limit on, and listen, if I don't achieve it the next 9 years, it's gonna be fine, I'm still gonna have achieved a lot, but I have and I think that is something that's important for us that are, like, super high achiever, goal-oriented people is you have to be able to realize that, like, you're working towards this goal, but if you don't get there, you haven't failed, I'm putting that in air quotes
Right.
for the people, right? But you've at least gotten somewhere. But, like, my goal is and I've said this, part of why I wanna build the team, I've got these big pillars for my team and my business, and it includes lots of different facets, but the reason I wanna do that is because by the time I turn 50, which is in 9, almost 8 years, sounds so rude to say out loud, is when my kids go to college, if they decide to go to college or they move away and they want me to come and visit them, I want to be able to come and visit them no matter what. No, check my
Yes.
calendar. No, I can't. I have a meeting. No, like that is what I'm working for. And I still want to be present in their lives right now. Like I'm not just working for when they're gone, but I want to be able to set myself up so that when my kids, Vivian will be 19 by that point. So when she's out of the house and they need me, I can be there, no questions asked. And
Same. And I think about like when I had August and I had the postpartum depression very bad and my mom couldn't be here because she was still
mm,
working.
yeah,
Like that's where my why of I will not be working. Or if I'm working, it will not be where I have to be tethered
right.
to some place because I want to support my kids when they need me the most. And as much as like they need me right now, they will need us even more.
Yeah.
It's bigger problems, it's bigger pain. I want to be available just in the same way. I totally, totally feel what you're saying there.
Yeah. And it's the thing that when I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to do another open house, or oh my God, I don't want to go to another networking event, or I just did this past week, I was at events and I felt like I was in heels and a dress for like days and days and days and days on end and like chatty, chatty, talky to people. And I was tired. There was definitely a point where I was just like, I'm a very extroverted person. Like I can talk, chat, with anybody. But at some point you just get tired, right? But I did this open house on Sunday at the end of the week and I was really tired and I was like, oh God, why do I always do this to myself? But it was a great open house. I had 15 people through. I got some new potential clients. Like it was a success. But it's understanding the balance of when to keep going, when to keep pushing, and when to give yourself rest. So Tuesday, I did a self-care day because that was important to me. And I had kind of preset that up, like a la Cheryl, right? I planned that ahead of time to,
Charlie is very opinionated on this topic.
he really wants to be involved. I'm going to open the door and we'll see what happens. He's so needy today. Hold on. This is really
Well, and let
annoying.
me explain the a la Cheryl while you let him out is, when you look at your calendar and you see that you have like a heavy period of time, I really encourage you to then block the time immediately after or somewhere in between and lean into the downtime. Even like yesterday, the woman I'm working with a lot more out here now, she's like, I'm going to take my laptop to bed. I said, don't. We're caught up for the day.
Yeah.
We're caught up for the transactions. Like, we're going to be busy for a while, and lean into the moments that you have down so that you can recharge and show up for yourself and everybody else how you want to. So yeah, taking that spa day when you texted me yesterday and you're like, I'm at the spa. I was like, yes, bitch, as you should be.
I just said this to somebody today too. This one of the builders, one of the local builders here is a woman. And I was like congratulating her because this Homerama thing is still going on. Remember when you were like, how is this still happening? It's 3 weeks long,
It's never ending.
never
Homerama.
ending. And I was like, well, what are you doing after this? Did you set aside some time for yourself? Because she's been there like every single day for 2.5 weeks. And she was like, no, I didn't even think about that. I need more women in my life to tell me these things because she's,
Hmm.
owns
Right.
a building company and it's with all dudes. And I was like, yeah, you should take a day, you should, or take a weekend and go away or do something like, because you need to rest from this. And she was like, oh my God, you're right. I was like, see, I'm always learning. I'm always taking things from everybody. I was like, so next year, block on your calendar the weekend after Homerama so that you can go and take time because this is a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's anyway, she was very thankful for that. So I credit that to you, Cheryl.
Oh,
But
thank you. Well, and I credit you for speaking up and like telling someone that. And I want to encourage everybody else to too, because think about yourself. We have blinders on when it comes to ourself so often.
Mhm.
So this morning I was on the Happier Human Wednesday call and a woman was talking about how she's been advised to have surgery and she doesn't want the surgery and she's come to terms with it and yada yada. And I reminded her about what we talked about on a previous episode where I said, she's a realtor. I said, you need to get 3 bids from a contractor, right? For anything. Are you going to get 3 bids on your body? And she was like, oh, I'm like, you got to do it. And we forget when it's us.
Yeah.
Like we get so busy just going through the motions in our own life that it's very easy to forget those things that we would tell somebody else. So just be an amazing human on this earth and remind people of the hard things that they might be forgetting. I ask that of you, my friends.
Yeah. And have people who will do it for you too. I think that is we're
Right.
talking about, we're talking about bouncing back and resilience like that. I think so much of that is also who you're surrounding yourself with and who in the groups that you're intentionally putting yourself into and who are you intentionally spending your time with. I think that's
Mhm.
very, very important to success. And I think that's very, very important to happiness and consistency
Mhm.
is who are the people who you're calling when this is happening? Do you have somebody to call? Do you have somebody to chat with? Do you have somebody to
Mhm.
text and say, fuck, man, like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? Or,
Right. Or just listen to me bitch when I'm in a hard moment.
yeah, absolutely. But who's also going to be like, objectively, like, I totally hear you and I get this, but also get it together. Or something,
So I
some
think
constructive part of that.
I want to make sure we cover 2 things as we get towards the end here is one, we just did the episode about last week. It probably came out today, the healthy dopamine hits. So like
Mhm.
finding ways like this job is hard. This being an entrepreneur is hard. Being a human is fucking hard. So finding those healthy dopamine hits that you can go take that take that hit from when things get hard and like have almost like a toolkit list in your phone or somewhere where it's like I can look up and be like, okay, I should do some box breathing or I should go outside and just be in the sunshine for 10 minutes
Yep.
so that when you like have your toolkit ready, so when the moments do get hard, you can go recharge.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, and we kind of started talking about this beginning, but like, or something you said in the beginning reminded me of this, is celebrating the small wins.
Mhm.
So we did for our Inspire Her collective virtual call this week, we did the finance topic. And one of the things that came up was Dave Ramsey's snowball method for paying off debt. And maybe we've talked about it here too, because I feel like I've been talking about it a lot. And the snowball method talks about how you take the smallest balance first. Like you don't
Yeah, we
separate your
talked about
debt
this
by,
last one. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you don't separate it by highest interest rate, da, 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 whatever. You just separate it by which one is the smallest. Start paying minimum payments on everything but that smallest one and throw everything extra you have at that small one because you're going to accomplish that quickly by doing it that way. And then
Yeah.
you get to celebrate that win. And that can help you stay motivated and enthusiastic about the goal that you have at hand. Because like paying off debt is a real one where it is so much more fun to spend money than it is to save money. Like
Yeah.
that's just real. And so you need to have something that's going to encourage you. It's the same with our businesses, like doing potentially like this one thing week after week that you have to do because it's required for your business. But say it's payroll, like
Yeah.
say you've got employees and you're doing payroll, like that's a real bitch to do. That is
Dude,
annoying. It's
payroll's
not
the
a fun
worst.
task, but it's part of it. And celebrating those small wins, like maybe every time you do payroll, you get to have ice cream that night or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Like, good on you. Like, celebrate the small win of, wow, I really knocked that out fast today, or wow, I did that with no mistakes, or find your small wins and just celebrate those.
I think that goes back to talking about having the guardrail set up, talking about having your task list of something that you can just check off the list when you're
Right.
feeling tired,
Hmm.
and that feels good too. This, and I know we're going to wrap
Right.
up here, but this reminds me a little bit, and I don't know that I love this book, but I actually have it right here. Um, is this Ed Milet book, Power of One More? Have you read this book?
Hmm.
It reminds me a little bit
No,
of
but I've heard
this.
the
The concept is like when you're done, like, and you're done for the day, do one more thing, right? And
mhm.
this is like that the open house for me, right? I had the hard week, but I do the open house. It's that one more extra thing, and those are the one more is what's going to set you apart and what's really going to drive your success. Now, I feel conflicted about that because I think people will take that sometimes and then that leads to burnout, right? So I think there has to be a balance
Mhm.
of doing the one more, but then also making sure that you're resting, right? Like I think what he has to say is really valid. And I do think there is a society where people do the least amount of possible to get through.
Right.
But I don't
Right.
know that people like you and I are those people. So sometimes
Right.
I feel like I would never tell us to do less, but sometimes I feel like for us, it's like, maybe do one less, like
Right.
maybe you're doing
Yes.
too much, right? Like we don't need to be told to do the one more, but it is that
Right.
idea of when you're an entrepreneur, and when that's really ingrained in who you are. And I will always say this, that there is something different between being a business owner or small business owner and an entrepreneur. I think those things are
Right.
different. When
I
you
think you can be a small business owner and an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
but I don't think every small business owner is an entrepreneur.
Correct. They're not,
Or
like,
every business
mutually
owner.
exclusive.
Right. Because as an entrepreneur, I look at you and and I'm like, well, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're seeing the opportunity and we're seeing and we're growing.
Yeah.
We're like a small business owner, like, this is okay too. We need, like, it takes all types to make the world go around. But
But
a small business owner, like, I have this shop that I open between 9 and 5 every day. And my job while I'm here is to take care of these customers. And I'm going to do this day in and day out until the day that I retire, sell, die.
right.
That's small business owner to me. For an entrepreneur to me is I'm seeing the opportunity. I'm looking at other endeavors. I'm being super creative in
Yeah.
how I run my businesses.
Yeah, and I think somebody who is, if we're defining it this way, an entrepreneur is not somebody you need to tell to do one more, right?
Right.
They're not. They're not a first.
Well, and let me tell you though, when I worked for the insurance company, that was like they always would tell us as marketing reps, like, do one more call. Do
Mhm.
one more call. When you think you're done, when you feel like you're done,
That's
go
what
do
this
one
book
more
is.
call.
That's what this book is.
And I needed that there, but I wasn't running my empire.
And you weren't
I was living
motivated.
someone else. I was building someone else's dream. It was not my dream.
Yeah.
When I have the why, I don't need to be told to do the one more thing because
Yeah.
I'm following my passion. It's my life.
Yeah.
It's not someone else's dream.
I really had a hard time. I really have a hard time with these types of do one more stuff when it's told to me by a man who either doesn't have children or has a wife that stays at home.
Or a female manager who didn't raise her kids, her husband did.
Yeah.
Looking at you, WK.
And you're right. It doesn't have to necessarily be male or female, but
Yeah.
it's when,
But it is that masculine, it is that misogynistic
yep.
attitude,
Yeah. And I'm just like,
which I'm not here for.
no. So while I like this book and I got parts and pieces from it, there was definitely like, listen, I also just don't like when people tell me what to do. So don't tell me what to do.
Tell me how to live my
Don't
life.
tell me what to do one
Well,
more.
Colleen, you've been a great guest. Where can we find you?
Thank you so much. You can find me at ColleenHungerford.com. That is my website. 2 L's, 2 E's
Mhm.
in my first name. And same handle on Instagram. And that's mostly where you find me. I'm also on TikTok, but mostly I'm on TikTok to watch other people's videos, but I do videos on TikTok and I'm there and you can always message me. But I'm really active on Instagram. Please go there, go to my new website if you want to buy and sell or something in Indianapolis. I am here for you. How about you, Cheryl?
Yep.
Where can we find
Well,
you?
you can find me on Instagram at Cheryl.theslow realtor. Slow is SLO, stands for San Luis Obispo. I'm buying and selling real estate in San Luis Obispo County all over and helping people find great agents all over the country. So if you're looking
Yes,
for someone, let us know.
likewise.
We can help connect you with somebody incredible in our network. Also, just growing this podcast. We're doing this right.
Yep.
And the Inspire Her Collective.
Yep.
And I'm just entrepreneuring all over this
We
all
are.
over this world.
Oh. The other thing we want to say is all of our Inspire Her Collective chapters, we now have 3 up and running, a 4th coming to Charleston in the new year. And then, do we know what's happening with that?
More coming.
More coming.
More coming.
Anyway, we're all taking new applicants for the 2025 year.
2025 year. Mhm.
Yep.
These are like
So,
annual groups. So you
Mhm.
join and you commit for a year. And it's incredible. If you are a real estate agent in a city and you would like to launch one of these, please reach
Mhm.
out to us because we would love to help you launch this. And you can find information at CherylMedeiros.com. And then there's a tab for the Inspire Her Collective, and everything you need is there. And if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, you can also go to CherylMedeiros.com and click to the podcast tab. And there's a place where you can apply to be a guest.
yeah, we would love to have guests. We would love to have new chapters of Inspire Her across the country. We are predominantly in, I don't know what I was trying to say there. Anyway, we would love to have new members. What I was going to say is mostly they're started by realtors, but they don't have to be, is what I was really going to
Right.
say. Is most of our group leaders are
Mhm.
realtors because it's a really great group for realtors to help build a support system for them in their communities. But if you're not a realtor and you're a business owner in your area and would like to be a part of it, we would love to have you. That's what I was trying to say, but it
Wonderful.
didn't come out the first time.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, guys. Thanks for being here. Keep doing it right. And we will see you next week.
Bye.
That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us on this journey of laughter, life, and growth.
And remember, you're not alone on this path to success. We're right here with you every step of the way.
Please remember to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's conversation, we'd be thrilled if you would leave us a review on your favorite platform. Your feedback means the world to us.
And don't forget to share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a good laugh and some practical insight into navigating the challenges and triumphs of our minds, body, soul, and business.
Remember, we're doing this right.